You know, we all have that one friend who thinks they're always right. They don't listen to anyone and they never apologize. But even they can be a good person sometimes. I guess it's true what they say that even the bad guys sometimes do good things. And, of course, there are people who seem so nice at first, but then their true colors come out and you find out they're actually bad people. We tend to think that good or bad is determined by the sum of a person's actions over their whole life, right? And generally speaking, that's probably true. A good person tends to do more good than bad things in their lives and vice versa for bad people. But when it comes to morality, the story doesn't end there. It's not just about quantity. Quality matters too. There are circumstances where one action performed by either a good or bad person changes everything. Consider a soldier fighting in a war. By the standards of their society, they're doing the right thing. They're bravely defending their country and its people against an aggressor. Maybe this is why most soldiers feel that even if they die, they will have died for a good cause. But in reality, wars are rarely black and white. The victim can become the executioner. Sometimes the side that started the war was provoked into it. But what if that's not the case? What if this war was completely unjustified? Perhaps one leader wanted more land or power and forced the rest of the country into a war that wasn't needed. If that's the case, that brave soldier fighting for his country is instead an accomplice to murder, pillaging, and destruction. Is this soldier still a good person? Of course not. No matter how bravely they fight or how many good deeds they perform in their daily life, the fact remains that they're participating in an unjust war. Imagine the same soldier finds himself fighting against an enemy that he knows his country has provoked into action. Should he continue to fight? What if he's ordered to shoot unarmed prisoners of war? How many bad things does a person have to do before they cease to be considered a good person? And how many good things does a person have to do to be considered a bad person? This is something we all grapple with in our own lives, because while we like to think that people are inherently good or bad, the truth is often much more complicated. I want to tell you a story today about a man named Choi. He lived in a small village in Korea many years ago. In his youth, he had been a carefree, kind-hearted boy. He would help his mother sell tofu in the village market and was known for his quick smile and helping hand. But when he grew up, his personality changed. He became cruel and greedy. His smile turned upside down, and he was known for cheating customers and exploiting others. Choi became rich, but not a single person in the village liked him. He had no friends. Everyone hated him. One day, Choi decided that he wanted to marry. So he put up large marriage banners, put on a grand feast, and invited everyone in the village. All of them showed up, though none were particularly happy to see him. Choi sat alone on a throne-like chair at the head of the room, scowling at the villagers below him. Suddenly, an old monk walked up to him and said, "You will live a very long life, but you will always be poor and alone." Choi was furious. He told the monk to leave, or he would have him thrown out. The monk calmly did so, and later that night, he left the village and walked into the mountains. Choi enjoyed his party, feasting and drinking and dancing with women until the very late hours. When he went back to his house, he discovered a small bird sitting on his windowsill. It looked beautiful and graceful, and he felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. He let the bird stay in his home. The next day, he forgot all about the previous night and went about his business. But each evening he would return home to find the bird perched on his windowsill. It became his nightly ritual, and soon Choi began looking forward to it. One day, the bird didn't show up, and Choi was upset. He spent the entire evening pacing around his house waiting for its return. The next day, he left his house in search of it, but couldn't find it anywhere. That night, he didn't wait for the bird to come to him. Instead, he went to the windowsill and cried out its name. The bird heard him and flew down from the sky and perched on his finger. Choi was overjoyed and carried the bird back inside. Every night they would spend hours talking together, and Choi would forget all about his worries. Soon, the bird became his only friend, and Choi began to enjoy his life. Years passed, and Choi slowly began to change. He started acting kindly toward others and even helped the young children in the village. He also began donating money to the poor. Soon, the villagers noticed this change and began to warm up to him. Choi was now considered a good person, but the bird knew the truth. Only it knew how Choi used to be and how his greed and selfishness had hurt others. But the bird didn't care. It was happy to see Choi change his ways. One day, Choi woke up and realized that his beloved bird had disappeared. It had flown away. At first, he was scared and worried, but then he remembered what the old monk had told him all those years ago. He realized that he had indeed lived a long life and had finally found happiness. He looked around and saw that his sons and daughters were taking care of the villagers. He saw how the villagers had come to love and respect his family. He thought about how his own parents had taught him to help and care for others, and how he had passed those lessons down to his children. Looking back on his life, he saw that despite his faults, he had lived a good life overall. He closed his eyes and smiled. We often talk about the balance scale when it comes to good and evil, but what if it's not a scale at all? What if it's a flame? Imagine a candle flame. It can be blown out by a single puff of air, but the same flame can burn brightly for hours if given oxygen. It's not the amount of air that determines whether the flame burns or not. It's the quality of that air. A single spark can start a wildfire, but the fire doesn't exist until there's enough oxygen to feed it. A single good or bad action doesn't determine whether someone is a good or bad person. Instead, it's the ongoing accumulation of good or bad thoughts, words, and deeds that define us. But what's interesting is that we don't really weigh our actions against each other to figure out where we stand. Rather, we look at a snapshot of our recent behavior and decide from there. For example, if we accidentally spill coffee on someone, we don't stop and think, if I do this, my total karma count will go down by 12.43%. I better make sure to do 5 extra good things today to make up for it. Instead, we apologize and move on. Our concept of good and evil works the same way. We don't measure our actions against some cosmic standard to figure out where we stand. Instead, we look at our recent behavior and ask, have I been doing more good or bad things lately? If we find ourselves doing mostly good things, we consider ourselves to be good people. And if we find ourselves doing mostly bad things, we consider ourselves to be bad people. Choi was a bad person who did good things. He was cruel and selfish and caused others pain, but he also had moments of kindness and generosity. He showed us that being human means that we're capable of both good and evil. Even the worst people can do good things sometimes, and even the best people can do bad things sometimes. Now, there's nothing wrong with striving to do more good than bad. It's actually quite a healthy approach to life, and when we slip up, it's helpful to reflect on our mistakes and try to avoid repeating them. But it's important to remember that we're all human, and we're all capable of both good and evil. Sometimes the difference between good and evil isn't about how many bad things we've done. Sometimes it's about whether we can admit our mistakes, learn from them, and move forward. There's an old saying, "Don't do evil, be kind." But perhaps the truth is that we should do all that we can to be kind, even if we're not perfect. After all, cruelty may rule a moment, but kindness rules eternity. Thank you for watching.